So we're at Marco's house. Marco, you are the managing editor at hothardware.com.
Yes.
We do a show together called 2.5 Geeks where you basically prove to the world I don't know anything about basic PC components, which is fair.
I wouldn't go that far, but okay.
Well, I haven't built a PC ever, and you have built lots of them, right?
Yes, all the time.
All right, so let's talk about what components do you look for in a PC these days? Are you trying to build towards a certain goal, or are you trying to just get the cheapest thing? What are you trying to put together?
So it really is going to depend on what you want to do with the system. Obviously, your budget. Do you care how it looks? Are you going to use it just for basic office apps, or are you going to take it to LAN parties? You really kind of have to figure out what you want and then choose the components that sort of fit that mold.
Now, why would you build a PC over just buying one? I mean, it seems like it'd be a lot of kind of a hassle. You have a ton of parts. You got to figure out, does this work with that thing, and is it all going to fit in a case? I mean, why would you pick that over buying one?
So the first is kind of a small reason. It's just if you like to tinker, it's fun. You know, it is fun to do. The other advantages are you get to choose every component, and every component could be a name brand, well-known, respected part. A lot of the pre-built white box systems, okay, you're going to have an Intel processor, AMD processor, and an NVIDIA or AMD GPU, and you know that, but you don't really always know who made the motherboard. You don't get to pick the exact hard drive you want. You're not sure where the power supply came from, things like that. So when you build it yourself, you get to choose exactly what you want. You know the reputation of the companies. In addition, sometimes you can save money on the cost of hardware, but that's sort of mitigated when you add the software in.
Is that really a concern? You're worried about what components are going into these machines? I mean, don't you think that these companies are putting reputable parts in there, or do you think they're skimping a little bit compared to what you would put together?
They will obviously skimp a little bit. You've heard all the stories over the years of the bad capacitors and all these little theories and stuff. So that can happen obviously if you're buying components yourselves as well. But you'll know every single piece where it came from, what its warranty is, and what its reputation is. You don't really get that with a pre-built system all the time. Sometimes you can with a boutique builder.
Okay, so now we're going to go take a look at all the stuff that you've put together. I'm going to go into cameraman mode. Marco's going to do a lot of the talking because, well, he's picked all the components for the PC we're putting together. Now, you're building me a PC.
Yes. So
I can use it to do all kinds of wacky things.
Right.
We'll talk about exactly what we're going to do with it later. But let's go ahead and take a look at that. We are looking at all the components. Could you actually point out stuff, and what am I looking at here?
Sure. So I'm going to start here. This little box here. This is a AMD Phenom 2 X4. Which model is it? 955 processor. One of the higher end quad cores from AMD. Okay. Here is the Corsair A50 cooler and the various parts that it needs. This comes with the motherboard. This is what's going to make the ports on the motherboard kind of line up properly with whatever case that you buy. That's the custom I/O shield. Here's the motherboard.
So that thing's called an I/O shield?
I/O shield.
You actually know the name for this thing?
Yes,
okay.
I/O shield.
So now I wouldn't know that. Okay, what else we got?
So we have the graphics card. Again, we mentioned why we picked it, but also because it had HDMI. I figured if you want to connect it to your TV or
That's fancy.
Yes.
I don't have one of those.
Nice quiet cooler too, very important. This is the Patriot. It's a 4 gig memory kit, Patriot DDR3 memory. Now, I tend to always buy memory with heat spreaders or heat sinks, even if you're not going to overclock, what have you. Again, any technology, any piece of electronics runs better when it's kept cool. So the heat sinks are going to help keep the memory cool. But here's just some SATA cables. Those are for connecting the drives. That is the tiny Patriot Inferno 60 gig SSD. This is, in addition with the fast memory and processor, going to make the machine feel nice and snappy. The 1.5 terabyte hard drive. The reason we chose this model, price, it was in our price range, and it's at 7,200 RPM, so you get good capacity, 1.5 terabytes, but it's also fast. It's not a slow drive, so it's not going to seem pokey. And here is just your basic DVD burner from Lite-On.
What, no Blu-ray?
No Blu-ray.
Not that a Mac can actually read a Blu-ray.
I'm finding that you need an optical drive less and less.
But it's always good to have a DVD. In case I want to rip my own DVDs. If I'm making my own home server again.
Exactly.
We can do this.
So you've probably seen many shows, shows like This Old House perhaps, where they tell you need to use the correct tool for a certain job.
Yeah.
Absolutely makes the job easier. Now, this kit started as a cheap, 30-piece compact toolkit I got years ago. And it's kind of got stuffed with extra parts over the years, screws, standoffs. thermal paste, zip ties, cutters, things like that. So I am big on keeping all of my tools neat and in one spot so I can get jobs done quicker, faster. I know where everything is. It's in one case that I can just close and take with me. Of all of these tools, you can basically build a system with this one, just your Phillips head screwdriver.
Okay. So these what the essential tools are a Phillips screwdriver. What else?
So if in my opinion, essential tools, you have your good Phillips head. Mm-hmm. This hex screwdriver here is for the motherboard standoffs.
Okay.
You have your thermal paste.
Thermal paste. Okay.
Your various bits, should you have any kind of custom size screws.
Does thermal paste go bad?
Thermal paste can go bad, but you know, it's basically just an oil with some stuff in it. So
okay.
If it's dried out, don't use it. If it still flows nicely, you can still use it.
Okay.
You know, and then you just have screwdrivers of various sizes. And over the years, I've learned to just keep adapters in here in case I'm fixing a system out in the field. And you know, you sometimes need a power adapter or a fan, fan connector.
You just hang out in fields and waiting. You're waiting for trouble.
Yes. I'm hanging out in the grass and building systems. For
Good
people.
to know. But this is why electrical tape. Do you have a lot of frayed cables?
You know, I actually use electrical tape as part of cable management more often than actually fixing wires. It looks better when you're zipping down a black cable using black tape. You just don't see it.
And you'll see that Marco is a whiz when it comes to cable management. That's very important. We'll discuss that in a minute. Now we're going to get ready to build the actual PC, but Marco, you have this incredibly, I think, bad idea of making me build the machine.
This is a very good idea, because people kind of get scared when they say, okay, we're going to build a PC. They get frightened, it's complicated. It is very easy. The parts really only fit one way, so I'll just direct you to put the parts in.
Okay, I'm up for it, because I think if I'm going to ask the audience to do stuff, I should be able to do it too. Right. I've always been nervous about processors, because they have a lot of little pins, and I think if I try to, jam something in, because, you work with RAM, you kind of have to shove that thing in there.
Not really anymore, but okay.
It doesn't make that clicking sound anymore?
No.
Things have changed since I built the PC. I haven't done that in a really long time.
Yeah.
But they usually, I think it requires a little bit of force. That's why I'm afraid of breaking stuff.
The sockets are 0 insertion force sockets on the AMD side.
They're like the Nintendo stuff.
So it's really easy. And then actually on the Intel side, those processors don't have pins anymore.
All right, let's show them the processors, and then I'll actually build it. So we'll see two sets of hands, or pointing. So let's take a look at what we're going to do. The processors now?
We're going to do first the processor, the RAM, and the cooler.
All right, let's go do that. Okay, so what are we looking at here?
So right now I am showing the underside of an AMD processor here and an Intel processor here.
So AMD, Intel.
Yes.
Okay.
Now what you'll notice, if you can catch it on camera, is the AMD processor has, this one I believe has 940 pins on the bottom, so tons of tiny pins. The Intel processor has 1,366 little pads, no pins on there, just little pads. So it's a lot less likely you're going to break anything on an Intel processor.
Can you put them to the side so people can actually see the pins or the dimensionality of this?
Sure.
Yeah, so you can see this is flat. This is the Intel, and over here's the AMD. This is what gets me really nervous, is all these pins, because if you try to jam that in the wrong way, I'm thinking you're going to break it, and the processor's really, really important.
Right. So the pins they are fragile. You don't want to bend them. However, they're not going to really break off as easy as some people think. I've actually dropped these from, waist height to the floor, bent the pins, and then straightened them back out, either with a little plier or a mechanical pencil, and everything worked fine. So I'm not telling you to drop your CPU and smash it and see if it still works.
It's just way more durable than I
right.
expected.
Just don't be afraid of it. If you're careful and you don't drop it and you don't force anything, you're not going to break it. But the socket has a little triangle on it that tells you which corner to line up, the little triangle.
So when this lever's up, what happens?
It requires no force to put a CPU in. As long as you have it lined up right, the CPU is going to just drop right in.
Okay.
So why don't you go ahead and do it?
We got a triangle over here and a triangle. Oh, it's also on this side.
Correct.
That's actually way easier to see right here. I don't know if you can see this little gold triangle. I'll zoom it in. All right, so this just goes right in here.
Just line it up.
And that's it. It just fell right in.
That's it. So just I like to just put a little pressure on the chip as you pull the lever down.
I just want to make sure that it's visible. Pushing the lever down. And it's supposed
to lock it. That's it. CPU's in.
That's it?
That's it.
Now that processor's in.
That processor's not coming out. It's in. It's locked. I told you it was easy.
All right, so let's talk about installing the RAM next, right?
Yes. So again, the memory only fits in one way but most boards are dual or triple channel, so you do have to pay attention to what slots that you use. So on this board, channel 1 and 2, DDR3-1 and DDR3-2, are the first 2 slots. It's labeled right on the board.
Okay.
It's right there. So the memory is going to go in these first 2 slots. And as you can see, it's keyed. It's only going to fit in one way. There's a long side and a short side. Okay. So you're just going to open up the brackets on either side and push the RAM right in.
Do they actually just... Oh, they just open. Yep. You don't have to keep them pried open or anything. This is what I'm always nervous about. Not necessarily with RAM, but...
Easiest if you push like from the corners.
From the corners, so like here?
Yeah.
Sorry guys, bad camera shot.
Let me show you one and then you do
What's going on?
So you don't necessarily have to go perfectly straight. Just do one side, do the other side.
Oh, okay.
You're in.
Yeah, so if you're going to do this, make sure you're holding down the motherboard too. So it's not going to be flying around like what I'm doing here. Alright.
Well, some builders would have you put the RAM in when the motherboard is in the case. I don't like to flex the board so much, so I like to do it on a flat surface.
There we go.
Next, we're going to do the cooler for the CPU.
And that's this thing back here.
So a little bit of prep work is necessary. There's a couple things. First, you want to just check out the fan. There's usually, it's going to be really hard to see, a couple of arrows on there that tell you the direction of airflow.
That's actually visible. Okay, cool.
Okay,
you
good.
can see the arrow.
Right, so on this particular setup, with the case we're going to use, this cooler is going to end up mounting in that direction, and the fan is going to blow through the heatsink, and this is going to be in the top of the case when it's finally mounted. So it's going to blow hot air up, and then it's going to get exhausted out of the case.
Okay.
So that's going to vary from case to case. Sometimes you're going to see it's going to be oriented this way, and you're going to want to blow air through the heatsink, and it's going to exhaust out of the back of the case.
And this depends on just the shape of the case?
Case and the orientation of the socket on the motherboard. You're kind of going to figure this out after the fact, after you're kind of piecing everything together.
Okay.
On the bottom of the heatsink, we're going to remove the protective layer. I have actually fixed systems where people left this on their heatsink. Heat does not transfer well when you leave a piece of plastic on the heatsink.
Okay. So, very simple. Remove the warning sticker.
Remove the warning sticker. So basically, these are the copper heat pipes that are in the heatsink, that run through the heatsink fins.
Yep.
And these are what suck the heat away from the CPU and help exhaust it out of here.
Okay, so we're going to install this onto...
This is going to get installed onto here.
Onto the processor.
Right. So it's very important that you have good thermal interface material that allows heat from the CPU to kind of run into the heatsink. But you want to prepare the surface of the CPU. You want to make sure it's clean. And I like to what's called prime it with a little bit of thermal paste. What that means is I'm going to put a little bit of thermal paste on here. I'm going to rub it into the metal, and then I'm going to wipe off the excess. And you'll see it'll kind of have a haze. I'm filling in all the tiny gaps in the metal.
Now, is this something everyone does?
No, I mean, some people are going to think I'm crazy, but, again, every degree counts, and if you can make sure this is getting the best possible contact with this, the chip's going to run cooler. Just kind of push it out there. Now, I have a piece of saran wrap, so I'm not using my skin. I'm really just going to mush this into the metal.
Is that thermal paste dangerous to touch?
There are chemicals in it you don't want to touch. I have probably done this 1,000 times without protection, and I don't have a third arm.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So I just smushed a whole bunch of thermal paste into there. Now I'm going to wipe that out. And all I did was just kind of fill in some microscopic holes in the metal, just to make sure it's kind of smooth and it's got thermal paste instead of air between the CPU and the heatsink.
Okay, so that
see how it kind of has a haze now? I don't know if the camera picked that up.
Yeah, I mean, before you were able to, you can see it looks dirtier.
Right.
That's what it looks like. And that's just the paste.
That's just the paste filling in the tiny holes in the metal. So now this little bit of paste is what's going to actually help the CPU make contact with the heatsink. So you need about a half of a green pea worth of paste there. This metal clip is what holds the heatsink in place. It's going to clip onto these things here.
Okay.
So we're going to line that up on the heatsink. Clip this side. Get everything nice and straight. And lock down this side.
Okay, so we're clipping on the heatsink.
So all I did so far was get this metal clip clipped onto these retention brackets here.
Okay.
So it's easy right now because I don't have it locked. When I turn this, it's going to add some pressure, and it's a little hard. Now that's locked. That's not moving.
That's going to spread the paste. That's going to get the heat transfer from the processor to these fins, and the fan's going to get all that out.
Right, so now we'll do the fan. This can't be any easier, it just snaps on. So the fan just lines up on the front here and push it till it clips.
There you go. This show is brought to you by the This Old Nerd Store, powered by Amazon.com. Buy from the This Old Nerd Store, you get tech, we get a commission. It's win-win. So this is the massive case. What kind of style or brand? What are we looking at here?
This is a Thermaltake A60.
Okay. And what's good about this design? I see here we have the thing that I always find not useful at all, a little window.
But it's a nice small window. It's not a big giant window.
It doesn't come with LEDs, does it?
No, this one doesn't.
Yeah, because I would rather not have that. We do have a lot of ventilation.
Yes.
Lots of ventilation in this thing.
So let me stand it up, actually. So lots of considerations when picking out a case.
And what's that?
First, make sure you like how it looks. Obviously, you want to get something that you can live with. You're kind of stuck with what I'm giving you, so deal with it.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
So there's also, the size, the cooling kind of features built in. This is a relatively high-end mid-tower. It's not terribly expensive, but it has, basically the whole front is ventilated. It's all this mesh. Even the drive bays are mesh.
Okay.
You have a giant fan up top to help exhaust air out the top.
Okay.
And
so don't put anything on top of this. No external hard drives.
Right.
Leave them off of this device.
Yeah, you don't want to block these. There's spot for another fan here. You don't necessarily need to have two big exhaust fans. More the better. Here is what you'll see typically. A couple of a bag or a box full of screws.
Okay.
These are for mounting drives, mounting the motherboard, etc.
All right.
You have, what is this guy stuck on? Here is the exhaust fan cable. Again, looks just like the CPU fan that we plugged in.
Okay.
3 pins with a key. This blue cable we're not going to touch. It runs from the front USB 3 ports.
Yeah, this case actually comes with a USB 3 port, and what's weird about it is that it has to kind of loop around. So here's the actual blue cable going out the back, and it comes out the back, and you got to attach it to a PCIe card that goes into the motherboard. Or
if your motherboard had USB 3, you just plug it into a USB 3 plug around the back of the board.
Right, but there's no. Would you do it internally?
So with standard USB,
yeah, for USB
this would plug into a header on the motherboard.
Right.
None of the motherboards available today have USB 3 headers. So I am just organizing the cables. This is the typical array of cables you'll find inside a case. This mess of...
So we have braided cables.
So yeah, this is all of the front panel stuff. So these are your hard drive LED.
Okay, so this is... What are these going to plug into, and what do they do?
These are going to plug into a header on the motherboard.
Yep.
And these are the leads. This is the hard drive LED, so the hard drive light that blinks.
Oh, so that's your status indicator.
Status indicator for hard drive. Your power switch, your reset switch, and your power LED, so you know the system's turned on. Here is a SATA cable. This is connected to the eSATA port on the front of the case.
We have a front eSATA port in case we want to get some serious speed.
Correct. There's actually 2 of them.
That's awesome.
This is front panel audio. I'm going to drop the rest because it's getting cluttered here.
Yep.
So 2 sets of headers here. One is HD audio, one is AC97.
Okay.
Just about every modern motherboard is going to be HD audio.
What is HD audio?
It was just a standard Intel came up with for higher quality onboard audio.
Okay.
And the pin layout is different than the older AC97 standard.
Okay.
But it's the same number of pins, so you just kind of see them jumpered like this.
Okay.
You use one or the other. So this is pretty cool. Yeah, these are easy to remove trays. They kind of unclip from the sides.
Okay.
And slide right out.
So you just mount your drive to this.
Right. So you mount your hard drive or your SSD. See, there's got provisions for SSDs here.
Okay, that's going to probably just slide right into the motherboard.
Right. So we're going to mount the hard drive to this, and I'm going to do it now because it's toolless. It's not necessarily going to stay in this position, but I want to show you how easy that's going to go. And it's got little pins that are going to line up with the screw holes.
Okay.
You're just going to kind of snap it into place. And if I can get some light
now here's where you don't have to use too much finesse. This is about this is not a joke. You actually do have to brute force this thing open because these have pins that are going to go into the hard drive and to hold it in place.
It goes better if you actually line it up like I just did there. Okay, so those pins
is always good.
Just kind of snapped into a couple of the screw holes.
Right. we have the hard drive there.
Yes, we have the hard drive mounted in the tray.
Right.
Now this tray slides into the case, but what you're going to see on this case is there are ports back there. You have SATA, data, and power ports back there.
Yeah, but that looks like it'll block it from entry, doesn't
And it will. So when we slide this in, the drive just connected to those ports, but look, it's sticking up kind of far.
Yeah, why is that?
But what's cool with this case is there is external access to this top bay.
All right, so you don't need like a USB dongle to attach a hard drive to this thing. You can just pop it into this tray, go through this little door, and you're all set.
Exactly. So if you have a drive, you need to get something off of it quick, pop it into the tray, slide it in, you have access to it.
Really cool. Now this is our SSD that we're going to use with our operating system, and it's been screwed in. This is one of the few times we've used tools for this this build. Now, why would you use an SSD over a regular spinning hard drive?
So the advantages of the SSD is its speed. Hard drives have moving parts inside there. There's platters that are spinning, heads that are kind of bouncing all around to get data. There's no moving parts in here. All the data is stored on computer chips, so it's super quick access. There's no latency between the computer requesting data and this sending it back.
What are we doing next? We've shown how the case works.
Right.
What's up?
So the next step, we're actually going to put the whole motherboard, CPU, memory assembly in.
Okay.
But to do that requires a few steps within the case. The first thing we are going to do is get the custom I/O shield installed.
And that just pops in, right?
Yeah, there's a space on the back of the case. It literally just snaps right in. And then there's these little tiny standoffs that you're going to have to screw into the motherboard tray.
What are they for?
These are what hold the motherboard in place. This screws into the tray, and then a screw goes through the motherboard, and that's what's going to hold it in place.
Okay, so it's like a little receptacle for a screw.
First step here, we're going to pop in the custom I/O shield so everything lines up on the motherboard.
And that comes with the motherboard.
Comes with the motherboard, yes. And this is a standard opening on all cases. It's just literally going to snap right in. So what you're going to want to do is, carefully pop your motherboard in and slide it into the motherboard tray.
So you want the motherboard right up against these I/O I/O shield that we put in already back there.
Right. So now, two of the motherboard tray, the pre-installed ones line up, and I need to do 3 more. One for the middle of the motherboard.
Okay.
And then 2 along the front where the expansion slots are.
So is there any trick to remembering which ones you're going to take care of? Or?
Yes. My trick is, I've done it a million times. The other trick is it's usually labeled on the motherboard tray. So we're doing a standard ATX. We're going to put standoffs in the holes labeled A. Okay,
that's interesting. So the actual case has these little holes in it, and they're actually marked AM, and there's an M, and this one isn't marked at all, actually.
Right, which means you'll probably never have to use it in the real world.
But they just have it for just in case.
Right, so I'm just going to screw these in.
So you pop these little things in, and that's what you're going to attach the motherboard to, actually.
Exactly. So now we're ready to actually put the motherboard in.
Is there any tricks to handling the motherboard?
Yes, you're not supposed to lift it up by the CPU heatsink, so kind of grab it by the edges. But if you have to, jiggle and get some leverage with the heatsink, do what you got to do. Don't put a lot of pressure on it.
Use some common sense there. I mean, like, you don't want to just be using that as a handle, but if you have to, go ahead.
Exactly.
But this is stuck beneath it. This shouldn't be right.
We get the cables
clear out all the
way.
cables.
And we are just dropping that in. It's probably not showing up on video, but the little brass standoffs.
You can see the gold color coming through. At least we can. You'll be able to see it when you're inside. Look at a nice close shot. Could you get the camera? Take a shot of it?
I can. So I'm just going to put in a bunch of screws here now.
All right. So Marco's screwing in the board to the standoffs, and he's attaching this thing. It's getting nice and secure.
Right.
Now let's talk a little bit about why this appears so difficult to a lot of people. I mean, to me, what seems really like the hard part is it seems like it'd be very difficult to work in this, but you have a really large case here, so this is pretty simple.
Right, that's one of the advantages of using a mid-tower or full tower is you have room to get your hands in there, kind of do things. You're not cramped, there's plenty of space to fit tools and everything. 2 big giant claws in there. People
can work together on this thing. That's how big this case is. But a lot of the work seems to be in preparation. I mean, you have to know if the processor can fit into the motherboard. Is it compatible? What kind of RAM do we need? Dual channel stuff. Will the heatsink mess up the RAM? I mean, how much work does it take to actually prepare all the parts you're going to have?
So that kind of comes with experience or just doing your research. Once you figure out your budget and you pick your parts and learn, okay, I have an AMD motherboard with a socket AM3. You need an AMD CPU that fits with socket AM3. The motherboard takes DDR3 memory. You want to buy DDR3 memory. That takes more work than actually piecing it together. Is figuring out which parts that you want to purchase and what you're going to put in there.
Do you have any site recommendations of where they can be told?
I frequent this one site called hothardware.com where we talk about all of the components and review systems and parts. You'll learn a little bit there if you go check that out.
Yeah, there's also this other site, PC Mag, that you cover. Or if you watch the video, you see what we're doing here. I mean, the actual build is not difficult. I mean, it's like Legos, quite honestly. It's very simple.
Yeah.
The thing I had the most fear was the processor, and that went in real easily.
Super easy.
And if you use the Intel, they're just pads. So, I mean, this is, let's see, what's next? What do we got going next? We've got, this is actually affixed to the case. That's not coming out.
So that's not out. That's mounted. Optical drive's mounted. Because we have so much room, we can basically put the drives wherever we want. So we're just sliding the SSD into this position. The hard drive slid into this position. Drives are mounted.
These have nice big finger holes and pop right out.
Nice and easy to pull in and out. Now the next step is figuring out what we're going to do with all these cables. Putting in the power supply.
Now, normally you can just connect things right to the motherboard, right? But this is really about style at this point. This is where you get to be creative.
Right. You don't want this just all over.
But you could.
You could, but we don't want to.
Okay, so you've already routed some cables around. We've let's see, you've cleaned this up because we have this extra audio that we're not going to use. So we cleaned that up by putting tape on there. And now you have what looks to be a USB connection.
This is the front-mounted USB. So we're just, roughly getting some cables in place, seeing where they're going to go when they're tied down. And you can see this is clearly labeled USB, and we are going to plug it into an available USB header here.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I thought was really odd was that I thought this would be difficult. You had to figure out what shapes fit in. That says USB on it,
right? And
that says USB on it.
Exactly.
Like, it's that simple.
That's it. Just plug it right in.
What are we doing here? What's in your hands? We have the video card.
I have the video card in my hand right now. We are to the point where I'm comfortable plugging it in because it's not going to get in the way of connecting any small cables. So we're going to plug it in.
Yeah, so let's see. The smallest cables look to be the most difficult were the LED lights on the front of this thing, the actual panels. All that took was looking carefully and placing the pin. That's pretty easy stuff.
They're all labeled. You just line up the little plastic plug on the header, stick it on there, you're done.
Yeah, I think this it always sounds more complex than it is. It's just, can you read? You can do this.
Exactly.
So if you can watch this and you've downloaded a podcast, I think you got this. So now look at the video card.
Video card, PCI X16 slot.
Okay.
Only fits in one way, keyed. Obviously you want the ports sticking out of the back of the case.
That's crazy.
We are just going to drop it into the slot. Now when you see I'm going to drop it in, I'm going to kind of be over the front panel audio cable. There's a notch in the card which leaves plenty of room. So I'm just going to make sure I'm not pinching it, but there's plenty of clearance under there. So I am just lining up the card with the slot and pushing down until it clips in. It's in. And
you can see the cable actually goes right underneath there. Yeah. Plenty of clearance.
Right.
And it's meant to handle something like that because this is a very real world situation where you have a cable.
Right.
Just runs through. Not a big deal.
So all we're going to do is put a screw in here to hold the card in place. Video card's in.
Okay, now certain people have standards and certain people don't. Now if you want your machine to look great, okay, you will go through the care of routing your cables. That's actually very important because look, the neater it is, it just is peace of mind, I think.
It also makes it easier. You can move the case and know everything is secure and nothing's going to jar loose. You keep turbulence and dust down inside the case if air can, flow more freely within it, and it just looks better. Take the time to do it right. Don't rush it.
What are the high-level things you should be thinking about when you're picking a power supply?
High-level things with the power supply. So I'm of the opinion you should overdo it. You want to give yourself some room to expand.
Okay.
If you want to add, more drives, faster video card, what have you. So you first, and very important, go with a reputable brand. NZXT, Corsair, Antec, OCZ. There is a lot of trickery that goes on in the power supply business as far as power ratings go.
Oh yeah?
So if you go with a reputable brand, you can rest assured that the wattage rating, it's actually going to be able to hit that. If you get some kind of off-brand and it's a tenth of the price, I would bet the farm it's not going to...
Don't skimp on the power supply.
Don't skimp.
Without it, you got nothing.
Right.
So, but what are the things you have to think about? Your processor, the amount of video cards you have, amount of fans. What are the factors you actually consider when you pick one?
So basically, this is going to give power to every component in the system. So it has to be able to offer enough juice for everything in the rig.
Okay.
Now, if you're going with high-end parts, it's actually a misconception that you should just buy on wattage. So if you think your power supply, I mean your CPU takes 125 watts, your graphics card takes 200 watts. Those are high numbers. I'm just throwing those out there. Okay, I need to use those numbers. That's actually that's not as important as the current output on the power supply.
Current output's more
the 12 volt rail, and there may be more than one 12 volt rail. That's the most important number.
Okay.
So you want to get a PSU that offers as much juice on the 12 volt rail, or its multiple 12 volt rails, that'll fit your budget.
Okay, and you've done a 4,000 word piece on this.
Yes, that
Okay.
piece appeared a few years ago in a CPU magazine, and I will make sure to give Ayaz the link.
Yeah, you'll have a link at thiswholenerd.com,
Yes.
so you'll know exactly every single thing you need to know. But look at the current output more than the wattage.
Current output on the 12 volt rail, very important.
Okay.
Okay.
Now I'm just going to install this thing. Also, make sure, by the way, that your power supply fits the case.
Right.
We had a larger one. It was about the size, twice the size of this, I think.
Right.
And it would not fit in this case, so we've switched it up to this smaller unit, and it's got all of these things.
All of
on
these
this.
cables. So this looks like a lot of cables, but this is kind of the bare minimum what you're going to use. You got your ATX power, your SATA power,
And everything's labeled again, right?
Everything's labeled. Even the plugs are labeled. Right here.
Plus
CPU 2. Well, so this is 20 and 4, because some motherboards have 20 pins, some motherboards have 24 pins.
Okay, yeah. And this giant one, you're not going to see this on anything other than the motherboard.
Right.
It's not like it's going to be attached to...
Yeah, again, they only fit one way. They only fit in one spot. You're not going to plug it into the wrong thing. I am going to actually mount it into the case. A couple of cables to plug in and clean up, and then we can turn her on.
You've built the majority of this PC. I put in the processor and the RAM. This is the heatsink. Now you can see everything's all vertical right now. There's the PSU, graphics card. Here's our nice wiring. You can see very neat. Marco, you've done a great job here.
Not as good as I would have liked, but I did what I could.
Okay, but this was it. I mean, if we weren't recording this probably would take, what, 20 minutes?
Yeah, tops.
Yeah, in actual real time, with occasional breaks and things. What, an hour?
Yeah, an hour if you took your time and did it really nice and clean. Yes.
Yeah, so we have this thing. All we got to do is check it out, make sure it powers on, and it looks pretty good. I mean, what's left for this build? We've got to put an operating system in, and that's up to me. It's either going to be Windows, Linux, Macintosh,
Or all three.
BOS. Don't forget about BOS. Everyone forgets that. Or OS2 Warp, which I'm sure it can handle.
You can forget about BOS and OS2 Warp.
Okay, so from the blue lights, you can see that clearly this does not work. No, you actually powered this thing on. It's running fine. You actually you updated the BIOS too, right?
Yep, we flashed to the latest BIOS just to make sure it was all up to date and that everything was working and everything was smooth.
What's the best practices with that? I mean, how do you actually go ahead and update your BIOS?
So there's kind of two trains of thought here. Some people say don't update unless you absolutely need to if you've uncovered an incompatibility, and then the other side is update to the latest one to prevent any future incompatibilities, whether hardware or just enhanced performance. I say flash to the latest just to keep everything on the bleeding edge. All you have to do is follow the manufacturer's instructions. For this machine, I copied the BIOS to a bootable flash drive. It executed automatically and it was done in 2 minutes.
And there you go. That's all it takes.
Yep.
And now we got this monster machine. Gonna do some cool stuff with it pretty soon. I'm figuring in a week or two, probably. You guys probably will see what's going on. And this has been the computer. And that over there, because I can't actually see him because this thing's in the way, is Marco Chiappetta from Hot Hardware. Thanks for hooking us up with this awesome machine.
No problem. My pleasure.
But I did find out that he did have a stock of processors that he did not give me. So we're not so happy.
But you did get one of the higher end processors.
I'm teasing. This is an amazing machine. This has got... It can do everything we need it to and more. So,
yes.
And there's still room for expandability, by the way. If you did, remember the inside of this, we're going to add... I know I'm going to add a USB 3.0, and there's probably some more RAM because why not?
Can never have too much.
Yeah, there you go. And I don't know how many operating systems. So we'll see everybody next week. Remember to ask yourself this question. How's your tech life? Could it be better? I think it could be better.
It could always be better.
There you go.
Wow, this is so much easier. You're a genius.